The events in this program are based on a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Coming up on Bizarre Murders, a 15-year-old boy disappears without a trace. 2 years later, he surprisingly reemerges in another country. But upon his return, things just don't seem the same. This is Thomas Gaines, a troubled kid from a troubled home. At just age 15, he already has 3 tattoos, one of which is a cross made of bones on his left hand. Thomas has developed a bad reputation around town for being physically and verbally abusive with his own mother, Janice Gaines.
Give me the mirror. What? That's my mother's mirror.
She's not in much better shape herself. Janice is a single mother who works the graveyard shift at the local donut shop. And she's developed a terrible addiction to heroin. And some would say, an even worse addiction to sweets. Janice's favorite activity is snoring her days away, which is fine with Thomas. It gives him and his much older siblings, Kimberly and Craig, ample opportunity to behave badly. Thomas was recently arrested for shoplifting computers, a felony.
Computers.
He's on the verge of being sentenced to juvenile detention. On a hot summer day in 2008, looking for distraction, Thomas steals $5 from his mother's purse. He grabs his wallet and backpack and heads out the door to play basketball at a local park with his friends. As night falls and the game wraps up, he calls home to ask for a ride. But as always, his mother is fast asleep. Annoyed, his older brother Craig tells him to just walk home instead. This is the very last time anybody will ever speak to Thomas Gaines. One quiet summer night, he disappears into thin air, and he's never heard from again.
When a teen is reported missing, especially when there's a history of drug addiction or abuse or conflict in the home, it is almost always treated as a runaway. And in almost all of those cases, the kids are found and brought home within 72 hours or not at all. The clock is ticking on Thomas Gaines.
The circumstances lead authorities to believe that Thomas ran away for any number of reasons. But as their critical 72-hour window closes, the police begin to worry that they won't find Thomas Gaines anytime soon.
So here's the quandary the police have. Did something really bad happen to this kid, or did he take foot bail because he was afraid of going to juvie? Now, the police have to start looking at different options, and they have to do it right away. Because 10% of these kids who go missing don't do it voluntarily.
In Thomas Gaines' case, the vital hours turn into days, and then weeks, and then very quickly, 3 months pass without a single clue as to the boy's whereabouts. Then, one night, the cops receive an urgent phone call. Thomas's older brother Craig is on the other end of the line. He says he sees his little brother outside the house trying to break into the family's garage. The police race to the scene. They search the Gaines' garage and the rest of the property. There's not a single sign of a break-in at the house. The cops question Craig and begin to wonder if he made up the story, and if so, why?
People make up stories to tell the police all the time. You wonder, is it for fun? Did they somehow misinterpret something they saw or the facts as they were told? Or sometimes it might just be a cry for help.
2 years after the disappearance of 15-year-old Thomas Gaines, cops receive a call from a police station in Italy. The man on the other end of the line says that a young man in their care recently escaped a European drug trafficking ring where he was forced to traffic narcotics. The young man claims he was kidnapped 2 years earlier from Pomona, California. His name is Thomas Gaines. The police are stunned. The Italian caller lets them know that although visibly traumatized, Thomas seems to be in good condition. He's even learned to speak bits and pieces of several languages, including French.
Now, this is unbelievable. I mean, the odds of being found alive after being gone for 2 years has got to be somewhere like 1 in 10 million. You have a greater chance of being eaten by an alligator than you do of being found alive after being held captive for so long.
Hi, Miss Gaines.
Yeah.
Investigators arrive at Janice's door and inform her of the good news. Her long-lost son, Thomas, may have been found alive in Italy. Authorities need a family member to fly over to Europe to confirm his identity. The Gaines are in complete and utter shock. Finally, they have some of the answers to his disappearance and are thrilled he is alive. But Craig is uncharacteristically quiet, taking in all the news.
They found Tommy.
He seems shell-shocked at the news. A local church raises the money to pay for Kimberly, Thomas's older sister, to fly to Italy. Kimberly is known as the Good Gaines. She is kind, sweet, and a little naive. She's never traveled outside California before, let alone the United States. But she is really looking forward to positively identifying her little brother and ending her family's 2-year nightmare. Since Thomas's disappearance, her mother and brother have changed dramatically for the better. Janice has a new job as a bookkeeper, and Craig has just graduated from community college.
In situations where a teenager was abducted, there's a lot of trauma for the family of the victim that were left behind. Everybody needs to adapt back into the family and into the family's routine, especially the victim. But this is hard because they're all changed people.
Kimberly anxiously arrives at the police station. She's holding a stack of family photos. In another room, sitting quietly, is an older-looking teen, almost a man. Kimberly looks through a window at him. Could this young man in the corner of a foreign country 8,000 miles away from home really be her long-lost little brother? Thomas Gaines, a troubled 15-year-old kid, steals money from his mom and goes to play basketball, never to be heard from again. 2 years later, Pomona police receive a strange call from a police station in Italy that a young man in their care claims he was kidnapped 2 years earlier from Pomona, California, and that his name is Thomas Gaines. Investigators inform the Gaines family, and Thomas's sister Kimberly flies to Italy to identify him and bring him home. Police Station, Naples, Italy, 2010. Kimberly Gaines, with family photos in hand, enters a small room in which a teenager is sitting quietly. He quickly stands in disbelief. As he embraces her, she recognizes him immediately. On his left hand is his telltale cross tattoo. She quickly confirms to the authorities that this is her long-lost little brother. But authorities tell her not to expect much from Thomas right away. They say he may have been severely abused while in captivity and seems to have very few memories of his life before being abducted. He also speaks with a French accent.
In situations like this, the abductors want autonomous victims. They don't want somebody that they're going to have to lock into a room or always wonder if they're going to try to escape. So what they do is they brainwash them. They tell them that drug dealing is the most normal thing in the world to be doing. And besides, your family doesn't want you back anyway.
Satisfied, authorities release him.
You're coming home.
And the two of them head to the American consulate, where Thomas is issued a new U.S. passport. When Thomas and Kimberly arrive in California, they're greeted by a small family celebration and accompanied by some investigators.
Hi. Welcome home.
Thomas's mother, Janice, stands back surveying the scene. Kimberly pushes her towards Thomas. Janice looks at him in the eyes for a long time and then gives him a hug. Thomas looks around and realizes one person is missing, his brother Craig. He asks her where his older brother is, but she tells him he couldn't make it. Craig has just graduated from community college, but then checked himself into a drug treatment program. While the Gaines are overjoyed to have Thomas home, little things about him seem quite strange to them. Thomas's eyes have changed color. He always had bright blue eyes, but now they are a very somber, dark shade of brown. Also, his complexion is much darker and more olive. Thomas surprisingly opens up with his family some of the horrors of his captivity. They used chemicals on him to change his skin and complexion and the color of his eyes, so he would no longer be recognizable. The Gaines are rightfully horrified and want Thomas to get back to as normal a life as possible. Janice now lives in a very small studio apartment, so Thomas moves in with Kimberly and her husband in their trailer about 20 miles outside of town.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah.
He sleeps on a mattress on the floor. He quickly enrolls in the local high school as a senior. That's a much more rural life than where Thomas used to live in Pomona. Family thinks it's good for him to be around new schoolmates who don't know him from before and won't judge what he's been through.
This is the story of a child who's been kidnapped, then transported to Europe by a drug trafficking ring, and then who manages to escape. It's the stuff of books and bad direct-to-DVD movies.
A tabloid news program gets wind of Thomas's story and hires a local PI, Ron Dyson, to dig deeper into the story.
Hello?
Dyson shows up at Kimberly's trailer with a TV crew looking for Thomas.
Thomas here.
No.
Kimberly asks them to leave, but Thomas walks out and volunteers to be interviewed. Dyson is stunned by the boy's thick accent and his broken English. Dyson compares a picture of 15-year-old Thomas with the 17-year-old teen before him and thinks something isn't right. After hearing Thomas's harrowing tale about how his eye color has been permanently altered, Dyson contacts several top ophthalmologists to ask if eye colors can be changed by injecting them with chemicals. They all tell him no.
You can change your eye color with contacts, yeah, but with chemicals and eye drops, not so much.
Dyson contacts a dialect expert to see if a person's accent could change so dramatically and if they would forget their native language after 2 years.
Again, the answer is no. I mean, they might pick up an accent, maybe even new ways of phrasing their sentences, but they're not going to forget their native language.
Dyson takes his suspicions to the Pomona police, but they are distracted by another case, a possible murder. Thomas Gaines, a troubled 15-year-old kid from Pomona, California, suddenly disappears without a trace. 2 years later, the police receive a strange call from the authorities in Italy. They say a young man named Thomas Gaines is in their care. His eyes are a different color, and he has a thick French accent. Thomas and his family try to resume a normal life, But a local private investigator, Ron Dyson, starts digging into his story, senses something is wrong, and contacts the Pomona police. Meanwhile, construction workers building a new subdivision in Pomona have unearthed the skeletal remains of a preteen boy. Found along with his bones are a t-shirt and basketball shorts, a dirt-stained backpack, and the wallet of a 15-year-old Thomas Gaines. Homicide detectives are concerned. They send the bones away for DNA testing. If the bones are Thomas Gaines, then who is the young man living with them? If the bones are not Thomas's, then whose are they? Authorities decide they must get DNA from Thomas Gaines. They visit the trailer and invite Thomas to come to the station with them to answer questions about his captors.
Okay.
Thomas obliges, and while at the station, they have him take a DNA test and fingerprints.
Yeah. You know, they didn't fingerprint him? I mean, really? That's the first thing you do. It is crucial to find out things like, who is this guy? The police run his fingerprints through the FBI database in Interpol. They get a hit, but they're stunned with the results. The person claiming to be Thomas Gaines is actually a French national by the name of Jacques Gobert. He's known to law enforcement agencies in Europe as an impersonator of missing children. He even has a nickname, the Changeling.
Each time Jacques was exposed as an impostor, he would casually admit to his crime and move on in the dead of night to a new town and start again. Pomona Police Department, 2010. Pomona police press Jacques for details on how he ended up impersonating Thomas Gaines. Jacques says, "I'm not a bad person. I just want to be loved. I just want a family of my very own for once." He happily admits that he was living in a youth shelter in Italy, but he was on the verge of being discovered. So he decided to steal the name and identity of a real person this time, an American. So it would be harder for Italian authorities to confirm. At night, he snuck into the shelter's office and called the U.S. Center for Missing and Exploited Children, disguised as one of the employees.
Jacques basically describes himself to the woman on the phone, and she checks her databases and finds that this kid bears a strong resemblance to a kid who went missing out of Pomona 2 years before. And so what if the eye color doesn't match? Everything else was so close.
The U.S. Center for Missing and Exploited Children quickly emails Jacques a picture of Thomas Gaines on the shelter's computer. He thinks he closely resembles the American boy and can easily pass as him. Gobert confirms that the missing teen is at the shelter standing in front of them.
Now the con is on for Jacques. He studies the picture and finds this tattoo on the kid's hands. Next stop, the tattoo parlor, where this genius gets the exact tattoo on his hand, right about there. Final stop, the Naples Police Department. And that's how it happened. But now the Pomona police aren't just looking at Jacques as an imposter. They're looking at him as a murder suspect.
Police arrest Gobert on another charge, forgery.
At this point, there's more questions than answers. And two of those questions are, number one, what happened to Thomas Gaines? And number two, why are the Gaines family playing along with the charade that Jacques is Thomas?
When police get the DNA back from the bones, it's a match for Thomas Gaines. They begin to interrogate Jacques. He doubles down on his story of impersonating the boy, but says he had nothing to do with the boy's actual disappearance. But he says the only family member who avoids him is Thomas's older brother, Craig. He tells the police he thinks Thomas's brother had always known he was an imposter, but he's not sure why. Jacques Gobert is a con man in his early 20s from France. He has duped a long-suffering family and authorities from 2 different countries into believing that he's Thomas Gaines from Pomona, California. But 3 months after Gobert moved to Pomona, the real Thomas Gaines' remains were unearthed by a construction crew. Jacques breaks down and admits he is an impostor, but has no idea who killed the real Thomas Gaines. Pomona detectives inform Janice Gaines about the discovery of her son's remains and the identity of the young man who had claimed to be Thomas Gaines. Janice is stunned and tearful. She says that she began to suspect the young man was not her son, but she so badly wanted to believe it. Craig is less emotional, but he denies knowing anything about his brother's disappearance. A few days later, the police visit Craig in his apartment to question him again, but they find him dead of a drug overdose, which they rule a suicide. Janice breaks down when police tell her the news about Craig. She knows why Craig killed himself. 2 years ago, after Thomas disappeared, Craig admitted to his mother that he killed Thomas, choking him in a drug-induced rage. He buried Thomas's body in the woods close to their house.
Janice probably kept Craig's secret all these years because of her own guilt, shame, and to protect the one son she still had left.
Janice Gaines is found guilty of accessory to murder and goes to prison for 10 years. Meanwhile, Jacques Gobert pleads guilty to perjury and possessing and obtaining official documents under false pretenses. For his callous and thoughtless impersonation of a missing boy, Jacques is sentenced to 6 years.
This is a case with multiple tragic endings. It's the story of a family who loses a child only to have him resurface years later and then to lose him again to the most unimaginable circumstances. On the other hand, a man who just wished he had a family to love him went to great lengths to make that happen. And for a little while, maybe it was healing for both of them.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and events have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, Martha has been married to Ron for over a decade.
Look what I got.
They've had their share of rocky patches,
All you talk about is money and you shut up!
but also happy times together. Martha, the nurse, has just finished a long 12-hour shift. It was a slow day. She only saved 3 people's lives. But now, at the end of her day, Martha doesn't realize that her own life is in the gravest danger. For close to 10 years, Martha has been a well-liked and respected nurse at St. Michael's Hospital. The one thing that's missing in her life is love, someone to complete her. the yin to her yang. Martha, then 33, takes out a personal ad in the hopes of finding Mr. Right.
Fun, loving, looking for a man to share my life with. Been around the block a few times, but I have plenty more miles ahead.
Yeah, me too, Martha.
Ron, a war veteran who works as a building super, answers.
Calm.
Hi, is this Martha?
It is?
I saw your ad in
The, lustful love letters.
I'm sorry, it's the first time I've ever done anything on this site.
It's my first time too. What's your name?
This is Ron.
I didn't know what to say or what.
Ron is divorced with one child, but Martha is smitten, describing the match as an oldie but a goodie.
I spent 25 years in the FBI, and I learned that finding love through a personal ad can be pretty risky. I remember one case where the person who answered the ad was actually a serial killer wanted for 6 murders, and he ate his victims. Like the worst kind of dinner date, really. Luckily, the local authorities got to him before he made it 7.
After a month-long courtship over the phone, Martha and Ron finally meet in person. 6 months later, they're hitched. Their marriage is a match made in heaven. Ron is the love of Martha's life. The happy couple spent all their days together and nights. But over time, Ron retreats from Martha, preferring to spend his time alone with his collection of sports memorabilia. Ron becomes obsessed with money and the value of his collection. Martha's concerned. This is not the man she married, and a far cry from Martha's own upbeat personality. After 7 years, the marriage develops an itch that needs scratching.
Ron's withdrawal from Martha and the world, as well as his growing obsession with his sports collection, were red flags. And it seems like we've got an inner demon situation going on here.
Ron's fixation with money becomes obsessive.
Look what I got. This is the one I've wanted for a long time.
He resents that his wife brings in more money than he does. And Ron becomes paranoid of losing all his belongings.
Ron, dinner's gonna be ready around 6:30. Green beans.
Hands off. It's mine. It's a lot more expensive than this costume jewelry, I'll tell you that.
It's a ball, Ron.
This is the most expensive ball you'll ever have in your hands.
It's a ball.
You just don't get it.
I don't know. I don't know what to do. He spends all of his time in the basement, down there with his sports stuff. He's always angry.
Well, when he's angry, what do you mean? Like, is he verbally abusive or?
Yeah?
Martha confides to her close friend Barbara that Ron is chronically angry and always blaming everyone but himself for his problems.
But I do get scared.
She thinks it could have something to do with his time in the
I
military.
don't know what to do.
It's not uncommon for war veterans, and I've known some, to suffer from depression and anxiety. These days, we have a name for it, PTSD, and it's an ugly thing.
Could Ron's wartime trauma be finally catching up with him? Although he doesn't like to discuss the war, he tells Martha that he saw serious combat when he was in country with special ops.
Serious combat with special ops? Oh, no. The official record states that Ron spent the war tied to a desk. I'd say someone is feeling a little inadequate because he didn't see any action at all.
Things start to look up for Ron when he lands his dream job as manager of Adult Zone, a chain of porno stores in Spokane.
Believe it or not, Ron himself has no interest in porn. He's just reading the articles. Actually, what he's really interested in is the money. He isn't getting rich, but it's a well-paid gig with benefits and stability, and he doesn't have to answer to anybody. He's the boss, at least when it came to cleaning up. And that's what Ron really wanted to do, clean up.
Over the following 10 months, as his paranoia and rage continued to grow, his new career at the porno store brings Ron into contact with some nasty characters.
Hey, man. Hey, it's closed. We're closed.
I'm Jerry. I'm here for the job.
Hey, Jerry. I've been expecting you.
Thanks, man.
Name's Ron.
One of his employees, Jerry, is a real sleazy dude with a rap sheet a mile long. Jerry also has a mean and expensive appetite for hard drugs. Cocaine, speed, crack, you name it. And he's always broke.
Ron doesn't have a criminal record or anything, but he and Jerry become fast friends. Both are ex-military. Both resent the world and see themselves as victims, though. Ron and Jerry bond over shared grievances, both real and imagined.
The new job only fuels Ron's obsession with money. He lies to Martha about the amounts he's making and stockpiles thousands in the den without her knowledge.
In Ron's collapsing psyche, he's the victim. That's not uncommon. Everybody's out to get him. He's got to defend himself. He's got to prepare for the worst. He's got to prepare for Armageddon.
My honey went into the basement and now he's non-existent. All you talk about is money, Ron. All you talk about is money and you shut up.
Shut up.
Martha's a compassionate person and can take a lot. She's a nurse, after all. But she's starting to worry about her safety.
In the basement trying to secure our future. I don't ever want to come home to this.
Get out, Ron. I can't do it anymore. I want you to leave.
I'll leave.
So at 59 years old, Mr. Porn Shop is forced to move back home with his father. Sure, you can call it a dream life, but things aren't looking up for old Ron.
And then, things go from bad to worse for Ron. Without warning or explanation, he loses his job at Adult Zone. What do you have to do to get fired from a porno store?
Can you come over? I just think we need to talk.
Then Ron finally catches a break. Like an eager puppy begging for a scrap of food, Ron is hopeful that Martha has seen the error of her ways, realized she can't live without him, and wants to patch things back up.
Hi. It's your favorite.
Really? You thought a flower was gonna make up for how you've treated me?
Yeah?
But then Martha drops the bomb.
It's over, Ron. I want a divorce.
A divorce means that Ron will lose half of the house, his share of Martha's pension and benefits, and all the cash he's stashed away in the den.
Ron's not the kind of guy to go down without a fight. He isn't about to sit back and lose half of the house, all of Martha's money that, as far as he's concerned, is owed to him. No way, not a chance. He wants revenge.
Lucky for Ron, he knows just the kind of guy who can help him solve his problem.
No, I want her out of the picture. Permanently.
Jerry is desperate for cash to fuel his out-of-control drug addiction and clear his debts. It doesn't take him long to decide.
I'll give you half now and half later when the job's done.
Deal.
Deal. And don't use the knife.
No knife.
We gotta be creative about this, Jerry.
Acting like they actually know what they're doing, Ron and Jerry weigh the pros and cons of which weapon to use.
How about the drill?
And what, stage a home repair accident?
All right, no drill.
No drill.
Strangle. Yeah, that's the ticket.
Jerry, that's the time my mom gave me.
How about a gun?
Guns are loud. The neighbors are gonna hear, and the hammer. Huh?
A handgun is the better weapon to use for a guaranteed kill because a hammer can be a messy affair and messy equals evidence. But a handgun makes an incredibly loud sound unless you have a silencer, and these idiots don't. And 2/3 of all murders in the US are done with a gun. One thing's for sure though, if you're debating this topic, you're either the police or a cold-blooded maniac.
All the way back, all the way.
After much deliberation, Jerry decides to use a hammer. A silent blow or two to Martha's head should do the trick. To throw off the police, they decide to make it look like a burglary gone sideways. They'll move around some of Ron's sports memorabilia as though that's what the thieves were after. Pure genius.
Flip it.
What are you doing?
It's just a ball.
You're just like her.
If the idea is to make the crime look like a robbery for a sports collection, unless you're O.J. Simpson, this is going to be a bit of a stretch.
As soon as you open the door, with the key, triggers the alarm. You have 30 seconds to put the code in. 4, 5, 6, number sign. What is it?
4, 5,
Oh, Jesus, Jerry, what comes after 5?
6.
Look, write it down, okay?
Okay.
4, 5, 6,
4,
numbers.
5.
And then it's probably not a great idea for the robber to have a house key and know how to deactivate the alarm. I mean, how would the perp be able to do that? There doesn't seem to be any logic here at all. Maybe that's just my 25 years in the FBI talking. I don't know.
Martha gets a surprise call at work from Ron.
Hey, it's me.
I just want to let you know I'm going to get away for a few days, okay? I'm stressed out. I just need to clear my head.
Okay. Where are you gonna go?
Just up north somewhere. Just at a motel. I just wanted to let you know.
Okay, I gotta go.
Okay, Ron. What do we have to do?
Ron thinks he's clever, which is wonderful for law enforcement. He calls his soon-to-be ex-wife to establish an alibi. Now he waits in a cheap motel for his degenerate friend Jerry to bludgeon Martha to death with a hammer. Nice couple of guys.
After a 12-hour shift, a hammer to the head should be a death blow. But Martha is one tough cookie.
Did we mention that as a nurse, Martha has self-defense training? Well, she does, and she's got plenty of experience using it. Fearing she's about to die, Martha shows serious smarts and instinct by biting her attacker. Her teeth marks could be used as identification.
Martha isn't about to let her attacker get the best of her. She'll fight to the bitter end if that's what it takes.
Who are you? Who are you?
I'm your killer!
Who sent you?
The epic fight lasts almost 30 minutes. It's a brutal battle to the death.
Jerry obviously didn't think that little old Martha would be a match for him. He was wrong, dead wrong. She was much more than a match for him.
Martha has turned the tables on the attacker. And killed him with her bare hands. Battered and bloodied, Martha runs to her neighbor and calls the police.
The stress for a paranoiac like Ron is immense. I mean, what could be taking Jerry so long? He should have called hours ago. Ron is most definitely losing his mind at this point, at least what mind he has left.
Detective Maxwell is the investigator assigned to the case. Thanks to Jerry's total lack of intelligence, investigators easily identify him at the scene. That's so Jerry.
After 25 years in the FBI, let me give you a pro tip. Don't bring your wallet to the scene of the crime.
Investigators then discover a note in Martha's house left by Ron.
The note is obviously meant to bolster his alibi, but the investigators were made simply more suspicious. In a case like this, where there's an estranged spouse, they're an automatic suspect. In fact, statistically, almost half of all women who are murdered in America are killed by people they know, usually a current or former boyfriend or spouse.
At approximately 1 p.m., the day after the attack, Martha's friend Barbara gets a call from Ron.
Hello?
Hi, Barbara. It's Ron.
I just saw Martha's house on the news. Is everything okay?
You haven't heard? She was attacked.
Oh my gosh. Is she all right?
She's roughed up, but she's okay. Yeah, she's gonna pull through.
Did they know who attacked her? What happened to him?
He's dead.
Oh my God.
Once Ron gets over the shock and awe that Martha survived the attack, he's desperate to track her down. He calls the hospital, but the investigators tell Martha and the staff to conceal her whereabouts and give Ron nothing.
Jerry, you idiot! Jerry!
Four days after the attack, Martha, having recovered remarkably quickly from the injuries inflicted upon her by her attacker Jerry, is released from the hospital.
So we're not making this up. It turns out that in Jerry's backpack was an envelope with a couple of bucks. And oh yeah, he also left a daybook entry with "Call Ron" on it. It's the crucial clue in the case. It connects Jerry directly to Ron. You remember what I said about bringing personal belongings to the crime scene? Honestly, I don't think Jerry could have been any more stupid if he'd tried.
Now the investigators need to locate Ron as soon as possible. They track down his son, Mike, who tells them he's actually been in touch with his father. He then mentioned that he's worried because the last time they were together, Mike discovered a revolver hidden in his father's drawer.
The investigators are up against the clock. Ron is desperate, and he's volatile, and he's paranoid. These are very bad things that, in my experience, make him more than a suspect. He's a high-risk suspect. The investigators convince Ron's son, Mike, to call his father to coax him back to Spokane without revealing that he's wanted for questioning.
Once Ron returns to town, the police take him into custody and question him about his alibi.
What I meant to say is Thursday evening. It was Wednesday. I was there for lunch. Jerry and I.
Okay, here's Criminal 101. If you're going to create an alibi, you gotta stick with the one version of what happened. Ron just can't keep his story straight, and it becomes obvious that he's making it up as he's going along. He's lying through his teeth.
Ron repeatedly gets his timeline mixed up, confusing Tuesday for Wednesday, Wednesday for Friday. The discrepancies in his story pose enough grounds for the investigators to arrest him. Ron is charged with attempted murder and conspiracy. Hoping for a lighter sentence, he pleads guilty and avoids a trial. The court gives him 15 years.
Martha's actions are considered justifiable as self-defense, duh, and she isn't charged with killing Jerry.
With Ron behind bars, Martha officially divorces him. She now goes by Martha Smith.
The moral of this story is, don't mess with nurses. They're good people who want to help you. But if you want to kill them, you better be tougher than you think they are, because they'll kick your sorry ass. Oh, and one other thing. If you plan on being a low-life criminal, don't bring your ID to the crime scene, okay? Ever. Not once. Never a good idea.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and events have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, the strange things that lurk in the hearts of men and in internet chat rooms. When fantasies jump off the keyboard and into reality, you might just end up with the bizarrest murder of them all.
Don't you look delicious?
Once upon a time, in a farmhouse set in a beautiful valley of rolling hills, there lived a seemingly normal salesman. 42-year-old Gunter is a bachelor who resides in his childhood home alone. And from not having a partner, something else is missing from his life, a void that needs to be filled.
You see, Gunter dreams of eating people. Actually ingesting them. This isn't a make-believe zombie fetish. He is an aspiring cannibal. It's a fantasy that began during his childhood.
I ask myself the same question, Gudrun, every day, and every day I come back to your home. I come back to you because of the boy, but that is not the boy I want.
Raised by a distant father and a verbally abusive mother, Gunter's household is chaotic to say the least. Nobody knows for sure what sets Gunter on the twisted path he takes from child to adulthood. Maybe it's his father walking out on him when he was only 5 years old.
Gunter grows up terrified of being abandoned. In his dreams, he has someone he loves and who loves him, a little brother, and they will never be apart. Because Gunter will eat him, ingest him. It's a sick take on togetherness, but Gunter takes it as kind of like snuggling. You want to snuggle with that guy?
Gunter doesn't get much affection at home. Bitter and angry, his mother treats her child as a servant and as an emotional punching bag.
The problem when somebody feels that they have no value is that they just can't go on living this way. A person needs dignity and self-respect.
As an adult, Gunter joins the army.
To the world, Gunter presents himself as friendly and charming while concealing a dark fantasy life. In the business, we call this a mask of sanity. For some people, acting normal is just that, an act. It's why people are so shocked when the quiet guy down the street who keeps to himself turns out to have a dozen skeletons in his closet. It's not an analogy, a dozen real skeletons.
Maybe it's the discipline of military life that keeps him on an even keel. Maybe being away from mom eases the pressure. Or maybe it's losing himself in drink. For that whole time, his fantasies continue. But he doesn't act on them. But it's harder to keep being a drunk under your hat. A couple of DUI car wrecks cost Gunter his military career and sends him crawling back to, you guessed it, Mommy's house.
Willkommen, Liebling.
It seems that this is a turning point for our boy Gunter. Up until now, he's been just a geeky loner weirdo. Every town's got a few of them. But he found a place for himself in the army. Getting booted, though, and ending up back at home where he started seemed to twist something deep inside of him.
Home, single, trapped with his abusive mother in an old house in a tiny village. His military career a failure, Gunter reinvents himself as a salesman. By day, selling surgical tools. By night, trolling the internet. And then, one fine day, Gunter gets a bit of luck.
This is the second turning point. With mom out of the picture, Gunter is alone in a big house in a tiny village. He makes his mom's room into a shrine, like you do, and spends his empty nights searching chat rooms for people whose fantasies match his own. Now, with no one looking over his shoulder, there's nothing stopping him from making those weird fantasies come true.
In the darkest corners of the internet, Gunter finds what he's been looking for: hookup and cookup, a chat room in which people share their fantasies of eating human flesh or being consumed by a ravenous stranger. Gunter's dreams come true when someone calling himself Morsel replies that he's been looking for someone who wants to eat him up.
They don't just share fantasies, they talk like they're the real deal. They said things like, I dreamed that someone will eat me up, or come to my house and I'll do it. Charming, huh?
In the cannibal chat room world, Gunter becomes a star. His fantasies are compelling, and the murderous tableau he creates are tantalizingly real.
When you start lifting rocks on the internet, what crawls out can take your breath away, sometimes literally. There are boatloads of would-be cannibals out there and whole rafts of sick people who say they'd love to be eaten.
But not everything you order online is actually the merchandise you would hope for.
Luckily for the posers and role players Gunter lures into his home.
No.
He's no Hannibal Lecter. He only wants to dine on someone who's into it too and wants to be eaten.
It takes a while to winnow through the wannabes before Gunter finds the possible meal he's been looking for. If you're imagining a person, with dark, hidden desires. Dieter might be the very last person you'd suspect. He's got a great job as a forensic accountant. He's in what looks like a happy, committed relationship.
I'll join you soon. I have to finish some work.
But behind those dreamy blue eyes, Dieter yearns for something. He yearns to be overpowered, absorbed, erased. He goes to the same chat rooms Gunther haunts, but his goal is not to be a cannibal. Dieter believes that his one purpose in life is to be treated like a beast, slaughtered, and eaten for his meat. I'm not making this up.
I want you to admire your dinner.
A romantic candlelight dinner is even more special when the person you are toasting is also the main course.
Are we going to dinner, or are you my dinner?
I have a plate all ready for you.
It used to be only the shadow who knew what evil lurked in the hearts of men. These days, it's anybody with a Wi-Fi connection, but crawling into those holes can be very disturbing. So be careful where you go and what you look for.
Have you slaughtered a man before?
No, only in my dreams.
Weird behaviors are frequently just normal ones taken to a bizarre extreme. Dieter wants to bring pleasure and to be close to someone. That's normal. He thinks the way to do that is to offer himself up as a meal. That's as far from normal as you can get.
Gunther and Dieter make a plan to turn their fantasy into a reality. Gunther has no clue how to go about slaughtering a human being, but he sets out to create the scenario he's got in his head, starting with a place to deal with Dieter's body.
Gunther.
Well, hello. Don't you look delicious?
My. Yeah, Gunther. What impressive teeth you have.
So now we're getting to the point where people usually say, hey, let's talk about our fantasies, fool around, and then watch a movie. If your partner is too enthusiastic, you say your safe word and bail out. At least that's what I've heard. But Dieter makes things very clear.
Dieter, I wanted you to admire your dinner.
He wants to be eaten, and it's dinner time now.
I just don't think this is working. I didn't want to be awake for this part.
I don't want to get too personal here, but some people can be very particular about their fantasies. Dieter had envisioned things going a little differently. For one thing, he'd figured on better anesthetic than cheap sizzurp and schnapps. Life's full of disappointments.
Drink some more.
Painkillers or no, Dieter is determined, and the disappointment of returning home uneaten is more than he can bear.
All right. You ready? I'm ready.
Dieter's biggest fantasy is that his cannibal lover will start by sinking his teeth into his private parts.
Oh my God. Well, this is something you shouldn't try at home, or anywhere else for that matter. It's tough, apparently, and very, very sensitive.
Ah! Oh my God! I'm sorry, Dieter. It's tougher than I thought.
I don't care how much schnapps or magic nighty-nighty cold gloop you've got in your system. The pain must be unimaginable. But obsessions have their own power, and Dieter is desperate to be consumed, to be erased.
Even though Dieter is becoming faint from all the bleeding,
Taste yourself. Taste.
Gunther doesn't want their dream date to end so soon. He's eager to please his dinner companion.
Maybe we need to cook it, yes? Little butter, some garlic.
Even now, even mutilated, Dieter could have survived. But he makes Gunther promise not to call an ambulance. That, my friends, is commitment.
What's wrong?
You're not much of a cook.
Gunther and Dieter's cannibal picnic has surprisingly turned into a painful bloodbath. But both of them are determined to make their fantasies come true.
Though despite being determined, both are amateurs.
It turns out that being emasculated by a clueless cannibal wannabe is not a ticket to a painless death nor a quick death. Who knew? Morning finds Dieter still alive, but he's too weak to participate anymore in his self-slaughter. He makes Gunther promise not to wimp out and call an ambulance.
Gunther.
I don't think it will be long now. Thank you.
Good night, dear Dieter.
Bon appetit.
His fantasy now satisfied, Gunther savors every moment of the experience of taking Dieter apart, wrapping up the meat, and stowing him in the freezer. It's a telltale sign of serial killers that their murders become a kind of ceremony or a ritual.
Out of respect for Dieter, he lays out his best china and opens his finest Brunello.
Prost, dear Dieter. You are as delicious as you were handsome.
It's not that no one was looking for Dieter or that they didn't care. His partner missed him terribly and called in the police when he didn't return from the conference he was supposedly attending.
Dieter did a good job of covering his tracks. He's wiped his hard drive. He paid cash for his train ticket. It was his heart's desire to just vanish, and that's what he's done. As for Gunther, no one suspects him of anything. Dieter was a stranger. If Gunther keeps his head low, nothing's gonna stop him from killing again.
While Dieter's lover searches in vain, Gunther slowly works his way through his freezer load of Dieter steaks and schnitzels. He gets through about a pound a week. It's only a few months before Gunther starts feeling the need for some variety in his diet. He tells his hookup and cook-up chat room pals that now he's a real cannibal. He uses the details of what he did to Dieter to impress prospective entrees.
Now, Gunther has made what polite people like you and me call bad choices. Going online, talking about eating people, not the best choice. Actually eating somebody, very bad choice. Bragging online about eating people, That's how you attract attention for sure. Maybe more attention than you want.
In the chat rooms he haunts, Gunter meets a lot of thrill-seeking posers who type a good game, but they ghost him when he offers the chance to actually be turned into a blue plate special.
Sadly for Gunter, his search is looking fruitless until he gets a bite that seems too good to be true.
Felix is a 25-year-old law student living in Austria. After some chatting, Felix seems to be exactly what Gunter's been looking for. He's young, he's slender and fit. Gunter is drooling with desire.
Hello, Felix. I would love to make a tasty meal of your delicious flesh. I can prove it to you.
Gunter sends details to prove that he's ready to take Felix from farm to table, in comfort and style.
Gunter's dreams have focused on tender young things. Could his second conquest be even more exciting than the first?
Gunter's hot on the trail of a 25-year-old Austrian law student whom he thinks will be more tender than the tough meat he got from Dieter.
There's only one problem. Felix is not interested in actually being made into bratwurst. He's just playing a weird game. And once he coaxes enough out of Gunter to convince himself he's really chatting with a killer cannibal, he calls the cops. Gunter's given enough away in his chats for the police to figure out who he is.
The investigators can't tell for sure if the graphic images Gunter's posted online are real or just skillful amateur horror filmmaking.
Come in.
As for Gunter, he's confident he's done nothing wrong.
Please have a seat.
What is this?
Farm pig. A little gamey, but sehr good. Have some.
The detective takes the frozen remains and has them tested in a lab. But most incriminating is the 6 hours of gruesome video documenting the bloody dinner party that Gunter and Dieter had the night the butchery began. The meat is human. Dieter is identified. The secret world of cannibals who find their prey online is both shocking and horrifying to the public.
Gunter is found guilty of murder and is currently serving a life sentence without possibility of parole. He says there's lots of would-be cannibals in the world, and he advises them to find a better hobby: coaching soccer, building model boats, train spotting. Oh, and one more thing. Gunter's a vegetarian now. He never eats anything that can talk back. I'm just glad I wasn't the detective who had to investigate this.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. Miss Cece, fortune teller extraordinaire.
Spirits, come to me, please.
She's progressed from working in the local laundromat
The lover's card.
to being the most sought-after mystic in town.
Last reveal. It's the death card.
But when Miss Cece and her daughter become the victims of a vicious attack in their own home, detectives must decipher a bizarre clue that weaves superstition and brutality in equal parts. Miss Cece, the best fortune teller in town, attracts clients from all over the country. Her services, palm readings and casting spells, don't come cheap. She charges up to $12,000 cash, which she stashes around her home. She flaunts her wealth, driving expensive cars and shopping for extravagant jewelry. And while some people in the community resent Miss Cece, in times of need, they rely on her to rewrite their fates and change the course of their lives.
The people in the community have placed great trust in Miss Cece. They may not like her, but they need her. And if there's one thing I've learned in my 25 years with the FBI, it's this. The pedestal that she has been put on doesn't come without peril. No pedestal does. To whom much has been given, much is expected.
The cost of flaunting her wealth finally catches up with Miss Cece and hits her where it hurts. The robbers make off with $75,000 in cash, but they don't like tea.
Dealing in cash and defrauding the government works just fine and dandy until it doesn't. Everyone and their uncle knows Miss Cece hoards her money in her home, so it doesn't take two geniuses to know they could get away with a big boatload of cash.
The thieves are eventually caught, but without enough evidence to prosecute, they're released. Miss Cece has the locks changed and installs a security system in her home.
There's so much to tell you, Miss Cece.
She now only sees clients that she knows. One of those clients is Tracy. And she's in a pickle.
Let's gather our energy so all the spirits will come to us.
The mother of 3 children and the owner of a fashion boutique, Tracy is a busy entrepreneur with a flourishing side business. Her husband's brother, Lay. Tracy has been having an illicit affair with Lay for over 2 years, even though he lives thousands of miles away in Richmond, Virginia.
It always strikes me as odd when people look within their own family to cheat. And I don't know, maybe it makes it easier. Certainly it's going to make the family gatherings a little more interesting.
Now, what is it that you want me to help you with today?
Well, you know Lay, the guy I've been seeing?
Yes.
I'm getting mixed signals from him.
Tracy trusts Miss Cece implicitly and doesn't make a move without consulting her.
He doesn't want to see me anymore. I think he's falling out of love with me.
So when her brother-in-law breaks off the affair, Miss Cece is the first person she sees.
I was wondering if you could put a love spell on him.
If I do cast a spell, it's very expensive.
Spells and hocus pocus may sound pretty out there, but people who are superstitious can have unwavering faith in fortune tellers.
Will this suffice?
Thank you.
One of the things you quickly learn as an investigator is to look at a person's actions in the context of their beliefs.
Please join Tracy and Lay together for eternal love.
And when you do that, seemingly random actions suddenly have a lot of meaning.
It's the death card. Do you know what that means? There's something in your life that you have to end right now.
Well, I have been thinking of divorcing my husband.
That's it. That's it. That's what the death represents, that you must divorce your husband.
So it's settled. It's all in the cards.
It is.
Impulsive behavior like that can be a real good indicator that a person's decision-making ability is, what's the word, skewed.
Happy and relieved, Tracy packs up her belongings and her kids and says, "See you later," to her husband. With another satisfied client under her belt, Miss Cece pockets the $5,000 fee and gets back to doing what she does best, shopping.
It looks like Miss Cece didn't learn her lesson about flaunting her money. Remember that time she was robbed at gunpoint? It's almost like she's daring someone to come and steal from her again.
Honey, you don't have to worry about the budget.
Miss Cece's daughter, Alice,
But you promised me to have doves for the wedding.
and her fiancé, Chen, have been fighting over the plans for their wedding.
No doves, no wedding.
She wants the big princess wedding, and he wants something small and tasteful.
Jen and I are fighting again.
About what?
she retreats to her mother's house for some tender, loving care.
Do you want your favorite cup of tea?
Please.
Chamomile? Okay, I'm gonna do it right now for you.
In an attempt to win her back, Chen bakes Alice vanilla cupcakes with sparkles, her favorite, and attaches a love note. The next day, when Chen still hasn't heard from Alice, he arrives on her mother's doorstep. When he finds his thoughtful treat untouched, he gets worried and calls the police. When the police enter the house, they find Miss Cece and her daughter Alice lying in a pool of blood, and they've been brutally and fatally stabbed.
This is Detective Lee. Request for backup. Apparent double homicide.
Women killed in their own home are tragically not all that rare, but throw in a dead mystic and a superstitious culture, and you got yourself a uniquely bizarre mystery.
When detectives examine the crime scene, they discover Miss Cece kneeling in the kitchen. Her body configured into a subservient bow. Her hands and fingers have been manipulated into obscene gestures. Alice has puncture wounds on her body, head, and hands. They've both been stabbed multiple times.
When a killer manipulates the body and poses the victim, you can always read something about the killer from it. In this case, because the victim is bowing and giving the big F-U with her finger, means likely that the killer is mocking the victim. It's a humiliating position, so you can assume that the murderer isn't a BFF.
Next to Miss Cece, detectives find a bloody knife and another on the floor closer to Alice.
A stabbing is a very upfront and personal way of killing. You're in their faces, you're literally causing them pain while watching the life drain out of their eyes. A gun is easier, a gun is tidier, but a knife means I want you to suffer, I want to see your fear, and I want to watch.
When detectives take a closer look at the victims, they get a frightening shock.
In 25 years, I can honestly say I have never seen a victim whose face has been painted white. There's a number of things that painting the face white could symbolize. It could be a ritualistic cult thing, it could be a cultural symbol of some kind, or simply have been done to hide evidence and compromise the crime scene.
When investigators search the house, they discover it's been ransacked from top to bottom. Miss Cece's credit cards, cell phone, and jewelry are missing, suggesting robbery as a motive.
So this is obviously a robbery, but that's not all it is. I mean, you've got to account for the way the victims were murdered and the fact that these killers took time to paint their victims' faces and hands, as well as position them. It can be difficult to unlock the meaning behind this type of symbolism because it can be so personal to the killer. The challenge for an investigator is not to get too focused on any one unusual detail that they don't follow up on other leads. And the fact that there was a robbery on top of all this intricate posing, that's a lead in and of itself.
Police also find a small bloody footprint on a tea towel on the floor.
For all you detectives in training out there, listen up. Here's what's good and bad about a footprint. Good point is, if you catch the killer, then you can match the print to the foot. But here's the bad part. We don't keep records of footprints. So you have to catch the killer first, and the footprint won't lead you to him.
Just tell me about this fight that you and Alice had.
It's a little stupid.
Detectives immediately set their sights on Chen, the boyfriend.
Every time we fight, we find a way to make up.
Where were you on the day that she got murdered?
I was working that day. You can ask my boss. We had this project.
When they check his alibi, it's airtight. But he does drop a tiny nugget of hope in the detective's lap.
There was a handyman. He had access to the house. Look into the handyman.
Detectives find the handyman clearing out his tools in Miss Cece's garage and immediately bring him in.
Why don't you show me your hands?
My hands?
Yeah, hold them up, please.
So this guy goes to the top of the suspect list. White paint at the crime scene, white paint on that guy's hands. Check.
What did you have against Miss Cece?
Miss Cece, nothing.
They're sure they have their man, but when they test the paint from the handyman, it doesn't match the paint used in the crime.
I work almost every week for her. She's a lovely lady.
And when his alibi checks out, he's released. As they exhaust all leads, detectives turn to Miss Cece's own community for help. A neighbor reports seeing a man and a woman visiting the house on the day of the murder and gives a detailed description of the pair.
It's no secret Miss Cece angered a lot of people with her flashy ways, but as distasteful as they found her nouveau riche attitude, they needed her. Her followers truly believe she can help direct their lives in a positive way. So why would somebody bite the hand that feeds them?
Investigators get no tips after releasing the drawings of the mysterious man and woman to the public. And with no suspects on the horizon, the case goes cold. Until a surprising discovery heats things up again. Investigators discover phone calls being made from the victim's phone.
So either Miss Cece has come back from the dead and is making calls, which in my experience is rare, or the killer has just made their first mistake.
Detectives discover that not only do phone calls appear on Miss Cece's cell phone, but purchases are being made on her credit card. Clothes, electronics, and meals at expensive restaurants, totaling a whopping $63,000. The detective checks store surveillance cameras and hit pay dirt when they see a woman with a strong resemblance to the sketch of the supposed killer ringing up a large bill.
Okay, let's stop here for a minute just to enjoy this. Just moments before, investigators had no clue who the murderer was. The killer was likely going to get away with it. And then this woman decides not only to use the dead woman's phone, but hey, while we're at it, let's charge thousands of dollars to her credit card.
Police discover that Miss Cece's credit card was also used to purchase 4 plane tickets. But this time, our mystery woman isn't so careful. Turns out she's none other than Miss Cece's best client, Tracy. Tracy is put under surveillance, and following yet another shopping spree courtesy of Miss Cece's stolen credit cards, police confront her. They find $4,000 in cash, as well as ID and credit cards belonging to Miss Cece. When questioned, Tracy can't get her story straight. They arrest her and bring her down to the station. While Tracy is in custody, police search her apartment in Virginia and find missing items from Miss Cece's house, along with a bizarre calendar entry. Brutal act written on the day of the murder.
It's like she left little breadcrumbs for the police so they could follow her into the woods. Just in case you had any doubt it was me, here's another little crumb for you, and another, and whoops, here's another.
The big break in the case comes when they find a boarding pass for a flight leaving Chicago. The boarding pass is dated 1 day after the murder, but the name on the pass isn't Tracy's. It's a name detectives haven't heard before, Roger Wang. Detectives learn Roger is a married father of 5 who lives in the same town as Tracy. Roger's wife worked at Tracy's boutique, and the two families became friends.
So why are you in the area?
I was not in the area. I was not even there.
Roger is brought in for questioning.
Well, we have people saying that they saw you and Tracy walking around the area.
Oh, well, yeah, I went, Tracy told me about she's a great fortune teller.
Where he tries to explain what he was doing in Chicago at the time of the murder.
Your DNA is scattered around Miss Cece's shop.
Well, I was...
Worn down by police, he finally starts talking and confesses to the murders.
We're there to rob her, and when we got there, Tracy, she went crazy.
But names Tracy as the mastermind.
What did Tracy have over this guy that he would give up his whole life to help her? I mean, think about it. He doesn't even know Miss Cece, but he agrees to fly across the country with Tracy to murder her in cold blood. I mean, she must have had an immense amount of control over him. The question is, why?
DNA from the knives links Roger to the crime, but there's little forensic evidence against Tracy.
So why'd you kill her?
Detectives confront her with Roger's allegations.
I didn't kill her.
Tracy claims she was never at Miss Cece's house and that Roger did the deed all by himself.
Okay, this is a tough spot to be in if you're an investigator. You really want her to confess because you don't have any physical evidence against her yet. And the DA is going to want things like that from you to ensure a conviction.
Where's your proof?
But the problem is this killer is so smug, they're never gonna give you one.
Well, we do have a neighbor that's given us a pretty detailed description of two people entering her place.
Detectives try and break her by telling her Miss Cece's neighbor saw Roger and Tracy enter the house that day. And this time, they take her prints, hands, and feet. Tracy's footprint matches the footprint left on the bloody tea towel found at the crime scene, and she's charged with first-degree murder.
Shoes off.
If I were a criminal, my first rule would be, don't wear high heels to a murder. The second rule would be, don't take them off. But hey, I'm no criminal, and I prefer wedges to heels.
You gotta give me a deal here because I can tell you everything.
Roger agrees to testify against Tracy in exchange for a lighter sentence. He tells detectives that he and Tracy flew across the country from Richmond to Chicago. They went to Miss Cece's house under the pretense of having their fortunes told.
How are ya? Cece, I'm all over the place. I just need your help again. Okay, yeah, just relax.
They were surprised that Alice was there.
Okay, I'll make a cup of tea for you and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it, all right? Okay, make yourself at home.
Suddenly, Tracy spirals into a blind rage. She starts stabbing Miss Cece and instructs Roger to kill Alice. In the heat of the moment, Roger does what she tells him. He stabs Alice repeatedly. Once mother and daughter are dead, Tracy and Roger drive to a department store and buy a gallon of white paint. They return to the scene of the crime and paint the hands and faces of the victims white. Then they ransack the house looking for cash. When they don't find any, they steal Miss Cece's phone and credit cards.
This was such a vicious murder, from the way they were stabbed to the horrible way the bodies were configured. And you gotta ask yourself, was this really just about money? Or was there something else motivating the madness?
A year before the brutal murder of Miss Cece and her daughter Alice, Tracy moved across the country on Miss Cece's recommendation that both her love life and business would flourish. Tracy made the move, opened a new fashion boutique, and began the daunting task of wooing her lover.
No,
What do you mean?
I can't.
But Leigh had moved on and didn't take the bait.
Sure?
You're crazy.
Interesting way to try to convince somebody to get back together with you. Threaten them with a hammer. Good idea. But Tracy's obviously suffering some kind of anger management issue, to put it mildly. She's so focused on getting what she wants that she can't see that her actions are irrational and only causing her more problems.
Her new business is hemorrhaging money, and she can't make her car payments. At a loss, Tracy calls the one person she counts on to fix the situation.
Hi, Miss Cece. It's Tracy.
What Miss Cece says next probably foretold her own fortune.
Sorry, Tracy, but Leigh doesn't love you. You have to move on.
Tracy is conditioned to believe that what she wants, she gon' get. And if she doesn't get it, then somebody has to pay.
She told me to pack up. She told me to leave my husband. Look what happens. My life is ruined.
She tells Roger that she's been cheated.
Love spell is supposed to work.
Miss Cece promised her a life of success.
We need to get my money back.
Instead, she finds herself alone and broke.
Come on, she can't get away with this. You're on my side, aren't you?
Because of this, Miss Cece deserves to die.
And then why did you kill Alice?
When detectives ask why Roger killed Alice, Miss Cece's daughter, Roger simply replies, collateral damage.
In my opinion, this woman is a sociopath, someone with zero empathy. When somebody gets in her way, she simply discards them. End of story.
And why did Roger agree to help? A man who's married with 5 children and has everything to lose.
Hey, listen, I have a friend, Marcia. Remember her? I can set you up with her.
Because he was extremely unhappy in his relationship, and Tracy promised to help him find potential lovers.
You like that, right? Yeah, come on, help me.
The 2 most insane motives ever to snuff out somebody's life. But here's the thing about senseless murders. Really, there are none. You ever heard that term, there's method to the madness? Yeah, because even though something seems senseless to you and me, to her, it makes perfect sense.
For his part in the crime, Roger is sentenced to 25 years. Tracy, the mastermind, receives a sentence of life without parole.
Tracy so believed in the power of this woman that when her life didn't turn out the way her fortune teller had promised, she felt it was well within her rights to kill her.
Even with Tracy behind bars, one mystery remains. Why did she choose to paint the face and hands of her victims white?
One theory that makes sense to me is that by having their faces covered, Tracy ensured that the 2 would never be reincarnated, a very important goal in their culture. Miss Cece and Alice's souls would fail to unite with their bodies in the afterworld because their faces would be unrecognizable because of the white paint. She didn't just kill them once. She essentially killed them forever.
The events in this program are inspired by a true story. Names, dates, and details have been changed. Viewer discretion is advised. On this episode of Bizarre Murders, when a wannabe social media star claims to have been the sole survivor of a late-night attack, she declares herself #blessed. But when police launch their investigation, nothing seems to add up, leaving them to ask how the attack really went down in #real life. Maureen, the manager of a local outdoor clothing and activity store, arrives at work one morning to find the front door unlocked. Assuming the supervisor from the night before has failed to close properly, Maureen simply continues on with her morning routine until she discovers a horrific scene.
I need the police. And maybe an ambulance?
When they arrive, police search the store.
Please help me.
There, they discover the two 20-somethings who were scheduled to close the night before.
Please help me.
Emma is traumatized but alive. Her supervisor, Taylor, however, isn't so lucky.
On the surface, this looks to be a robbery gone wrong. Very, very wrong. You've got one girl who's alive but badly injured, and another who's dead, having been beaten almost beyond recognition. My experience in the FBI tells me that you don't generally see this level of violence with a robbery gone wrong. They generally stop when you're dead. So I'm thinking there's more to this than meets the eye.
Emma, a budding lifestyle blogger and social media influencer, gives her statement to police.
It was horrible. Poor Taylor. She was my bestie. We closed up the store like we always do. Okay. It was so great. I know. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Mwah, mwah. Love you. Bye. But then I realized I forgot my house keys and my wallet, so I called Taylor and asked her, do you mind coming back and letting me in to get them? So Taylor came back.
Just as Taylor was unlocking the door, two men rushed out of the shadows, grabbing the women and forcing them inside.
You, around there!
What?
Get around there and open the register!
I can't, it's locked!
Stop lying to me!
No, we already deposited it, there's nothing in there!
Open it up or I'm gonna hit you!
You're not listening, there's nothing I can do! No! Oh, run! Oh! No! No! No!
Emma becomes emotional as she describes hearing Taylor being beaten to death in the next room before being dragged in there herself.
And then I saw her lying there dead.
Emma says the men began panicking when they realized Taylor was dead. Terrified she would be next, Emma took a chance and pleaded for the men to spare her life.
Then I begged them not to kill me. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Please don't. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. I couldn't tell who they were, so I swore I wasn't gonna tell anybody what happened. Don't kill me.
Don't say anything, and we'll come back and kill you too. Come on, let's go.
Taylor!
I'm surprised that Emma was left alive. I mean, most of the time, criminals who are willing to beat and stab one young woman to death don't leave another alive to serve as an eyewitness to their crimes. Isn't that the reason they killed the other one? In fact, it's so unusual that Emma should be writing to the Pope because she just got her miracle.
As she finishes her tragic tale, Emma seems overcome by guilt.
If it weren't for me, Taylor would still be alive.
Detective Armstrong assures Emma that he'll do everything he can to bring Taylor's killers to justice.
Thank you.
The thing with victims like Emma, young, pretty, the whole bit, is that people see them as infallible. They can't lie or be mistaken. I mean, how could they when they look so innocent? But if there's one thing we should have learned by now in this age of social media, it's that the image and the truth don't always go hand in hand.
Emma soon discovers that surviving tragedy is a fast track to gaining followers. It only takes one post for her social media to go from recreational to aspirational. As Emma's harrowing attack goes viral, panic grips the town, and parents fear their children could be the assailant's next target.
Young people being randomly kidnapped or killed while their parents think they're safely at work, that's straight out of the parents' worst nightmares handbook, which means one thing. There's going to be a lot of pressure to solve this case and solve it fast.
Detective Armstrong works around the clock, and his efforts soon pay off. Within a day, he finds two men dressed all in black on the store's security footage. Could these be the mystery assailants who attacked Emma and Taylor?
Emma's story of survival might be a social media sensation, but her story is anything but on fleek.
Armstrong.
Detective Armstrong tracks down the men from the security footage, but soon learns they simply cut through the strip mall's parking lot on their way to a party. With solid alibis for the remainder of the night, they're eliminated as suspects. When Detective Armstrong re-examines the crime scene, he discovers another issue. Emma said that there were 2 attackers, but there's only 1 pair of men's bloody footprints in the store, suggesting a single assailant.
There's a few reasons a victim's story may not check out. They may be traumatized so badly that they get details wrong. I've seen that. They may be so scared of their attackers that they lie to the police, or they may lie to cover up something even worse.
As Detective Armstrong continues his investigation, he focuses his attention on single assailants who could have come into the store, and soon receives a flood of tips about one man.
Armstrong.
Sam. When Detective Armstrong looks into Sam's background, he finds a long rap sheet of petty crimes, as well as a history of being aggressive with women around town.
It's clear that Sam has no respect for law or women, and he hangs out at a local pool hall, which just happens to be down the street from the store Emma works at. And if that's not enough to raise a red flag, old Sam is often seen cutting across the strip mall parking lot en route to the pool hall. Yeah, that's enough to bring him in.
But when Detective Armstrong goes looking for Sam, he's not at his favorite hangout spot, but at the hospital, after getting into a fight a couple of nights before.
Sam, I'm Detective Armstrong. Is it okay if I ask you a few questions?
I guess.
The man he finds is nothing like who the tipsters described.
We've been thinking Sam could be a cold-blooded killer who overpowered 2 young, active women, brutally murdering one of them. But this guy, he doesn't look like he could even take me down. And look at me, I'm old, I'm retired.
Detective Armstrong shifts his focus, hoping to still get some information out of his visit.
I'm investigating a murder that took place at the strip mall on the 5th.
I was in the strip mall.
You were in the strip mall?
I cut through there in the evening.
You cut through there what time, Sam?
About 10, I guess.
The night of the murder, Sam cut through the mall parking lot after the time Emma claims the women were pushed into the store.
Now, did you see anything? Anything out of the ordinary?
I didn't see anything.
You didn't see anything?
I heard lots of screaming and yelling.
Sam says he could hear raised voices from people arguing in the store.
Sam, how many men's voices did you hear?
Detective Armstrong gets an answer he never expected.
No men. Women.
Sam claims there were just 2 women yelling that night. Well, that doesn't line up with Emma's report, but let's face it, Sam isn't the most reliable witness. So the question becomes, whose statement is accurate, Sam's or Emma's?
Hoping for clarity, Detective Armstrong turns to store manager Maureen, who immediately raises her own doubts about Emma's story.
I just want to ask you a few questions about Emma and Taylor's friendship.
Friends. Emma and Taylor were never that close.
Really?
Maureen says that not only were Emma and Taylor not besties,
Okay, bag check time.
but Taylor had just accused Emma of stealing from the store.
Okay, yours?
Oh.
Okay, oh,
Oh, yeah, I bought that earlier.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Well, the receipt is in the cash, and the cash is locked, so I'll be sure to show Maureen first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Thank you. After you.
Taylor sent Emma home, telling her they'd discuss the issue again in the morning. Once she left, though, Taylor became increasingly convinced that Emma had stolen the tank top.
Hey, Maureen, it's Taylor. Listen, I don't want to have to do this, but
Taylor told me Emma had a swim scholarship at college and she lost it and she got kicked off the team when she was caught stealing.
Really?
Emma had been the star of her swim team, and her future looked set. But she was unable to stop stealing, and eventually was kicked out of school.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
There are two types of theft, normal theft and obsessive. Normal theft is deliberate and motivated. They want something, an item, or the cash they can get from selling it. Obsessive theft is more random. Most of the time, they don't even know why, but they can't stop themselves. This second kind of theft often points to larger issues.
That okay?
Emma could have paid for that top, but instead, she pulls a full-on Winona Ryder.
Emma had only just gotten her life back on track, developing an online presence and getting her job at the store. But now, a single tank top could derail her again. Detective Armstrong has concerns about Emma's story, and these only increase when he learns that Taylor's car has been found a block away from the store, with Emma's fingerprints and blood in it.
If it were just Emma's fingerprints and they were, say, on the passenger side, it would be easy to believe she got a ride home from work with Taylor one day. But her fingerprints and the blood were on the steering wheel. And that can only mean one thing. She was driving that car the night of the murder, and the perpetrators would never let her do that unless they're from the Dumb and Dumber school of kidnapping.
When Detective Armstrong confronts Emma...
Okay, Emma, I have a question for you. We found your DNA in Taylor's car from the night of the murder.
she immediately breaks down.
Oh my gosh. I totally forgot.
She tells Detective Armstrong that the men who attacked her had seen Taylor's car double parked in front of the store.
Someone's gonna notice the car outside, and we're gonna get busted. You, go move the car.
What?
Don't move the car.
And they said if I wasn't back in 10 minutes that they were gonna kill me.
Emma claims she did exactly as she was told, parking the car a block away, then returning straight to the store.
Say you're in a hostage situation. You're the hostage, and the perps holding you hand you your car keys and tell you to be back in 10 minutes. Don't do it. Run away. Get away. Get your ass in that car and call the police. Even if there are still people being held hostage, your best bet is calling the police and then doing what the police tell you to, not playing nice with your kidnappers and hoping they'll take pity on you and let you live. They're not nice.
And I'm so sorry. I forgot. I remember now. The trauma from the night.
Like memory issues, trauma can lead to amnesia as people's brains literally block out aspects of the event they can't deal with. So it's completely possible that Emma had temporary amnesia. We get that. But most victims of crime don't leave out only those parts that might incriminate them. That's not temporary amnesia. That's convenient amnesia. And you usually only see that with people who have something to hide.
Detective Armstrong isn't convinced by his eyewitness's latest story, so returns to the scene of Taylor's murder, hoping to get some new insight on the case. After a short search, he makes a monumental discovery, a knife that could be the murder weapon. He preps it to be sent out for DNA testing.
This case is all about he said, she said. So finding a potential murder weapon, one that could have DNA evidence on it, is just what we need to figure out who's telling the truth and who's using a rose-tinted filter on their story.
Detective Armstrong goes over the rest of the crime scene with a fine-tooth comb. And soon hits pay dirt. A bloody shoe from a brand sold at the store. When he checks his new discovery against the male footprints in the store, he finds a perfect match.
So not only were these mopes letting their hostages have yelling fights and sending a hostage out to move a car, but now one is taking off his shoes to put on new shoes, walking around in them for a little while and then leaving them at the murder scene. If it weren't for Taylor's very real dead body, I think I was being punked.
Police send the shoes out for testing, and when the results come back, they clear up a lot of questions.
The blood on the outside of the shoe is Taylor's, and the DNA on the inside is Emma's. That means Emma handled those shoes the night of the murder. And what does that tell us? It says that Emma not only killed her coworker, but then went to elaborate lengths to cover it up, even inventing fake assailants and playing the victim. The problem was that Emma assumed police would automatically buy into whatever she told them. And in doing so, she broke one of the criminal commandments. Thou shalt never underestimate the popo.
Detective Armstrong confronts Emma, who sticks to her story.
Detective, I swear I'm the victim here.
But this time, Detective Armstrong isn't buying it.
I know there were no men there that night. The story does not add up. Tell me what happened that night.
He pushes Emma for the truth. And finally, it comes tumbling out.
Got all the details.
I did what I had to do. I stole the shirt, and she was gonna rat me out.
And once the two women parted ways for the night, she had obsessed about how Taylor was going to get her fired the next day. Hoping to talk to Taylor before she could report the incident, Emma called her, claiming to have forgotten her wallet and house keys in the store.
Emma tells police she just wanted Taylor to come back so they could have a private conversation. But you know where else you can have a private conversation? On the phone. If you ask me, Emma might not have known she was going to kill Taylor when she called, but she'd already decided to do whatever was necessary to make this situation go away.
Hey.
Hey, thanks so much.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about it.
Taking the responsibilities of her job seriously, Taylor came right back to the store. She even offered to help look for the lost wallet and keys.
Where do you think you left them? It's behind here?
But Emma had other things on her mind.
No, I don't see anything.
If you say anything, my life will be ruined. Again. Please don't tell Maureen that I took the tank top.
Emma had her life fall apart once before because of stealing, and then just when she felt she'd gotten back on track, she saw everything about to slip away again. And that's when she went into self-preservation mode. And the problem with that is this. Even if people seem rational at first, when they get into self-preservation mode, anything can happen.
Emma, I'm really sorry. I already called Maureen.
Why would you do that?
I wasn't trying to get you in trouble, it's just...
Is your life so horrible that you had to ruin mine too?
Calm down.
Do not tell me to calm down.
I'm out of here. I have to go.
Taylor. Ah!
People who engage in obsessive theft are often really not concerned about how their actions impact others. They're addicted to the rush they get from breaking the law and getting away with it. Because of those things, we often see people who engage in obsessive theft escalate their criminal behavior over time. If you ask me, Emma was in a panic and a rage when she hit Taylor that first time. But once she got a taste of the violence, she found that the rush she got from that was even better than theft. And that's why she bludgeoned Taylor to death. She didn't want that moment to end. Emma may have done the crime, but she didn't want to do the time. So she moved Taylor's car to give herself a chance to cover her tracks. Then, realizing she couldn't, she decided to make new ones.
Knowing she couldn't get rid of the shoes that night, Emma hid them in the store, planning to come back for them later. Once the scene was set, Emma gave herself just enough injuries to make her story believable. Then settled in and waited to be found the following morning.
Please help me. Oh, no, it's not good. Okay. Help me. Please help me.
Emma was so desperate to hold on to her life and her online status that she was willing to literally bleed for it. That shows the same kind of extreme behavior and impulse control issues that I suspect led her to steal and then to kill.
Having heard her confession, Detective Armstrong charges Emma with first-degree murder.
Emma, you're under arrest.
Emma is convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison.
Emma apparently got confused between slay the day and slay your coworker. It's easy to do. And so in trying to save herself from being fired over stealing, she got herself locked up for murder. Talk about your epic fail.